So when we talk about occupations in occupational therapy, what we're talking about are everyday activities. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when we say occupation, we just think about work.
Yes.
Well, work is one occupation. Mm-hmm. But say for a child, when we're talking about occupations, we're actually looking at things like play,
yep,
going to school, getting dressed, cleaning your teeth, brushing your hair. So occupations are everything that you do every day. Mm-hmm. So for most of us, the things that we don't really think about because we're lucky enough to do them. But if you've had an accident or illness, you might need to think a bit more about how are you going to put your shirt on, how are you going to go to the toilet, and they're the things that occupational therapists work with you on.
Өнөөдрийн подкастыг үргэлжлүүлэн үзэхээс өмнө би таныг манай багийн гишүүн болохыг урьж байна. Юу хийх вэ гэхээр манай YouTube сувгт subscribe дараарай. Ингэснээр та бидний бэлтгэж байгаа мэдээллүүдийг авахын хажуугаар таны амьдралын хэм маягт шаардлагатай өөрчлөлтүүдийг бид нар өгөх тэр хэмжээний мэдээллийг өгөх болно. Тэгээд комент бичгээ бити мартаарай. Учир нь манай багийнхан бид бүгдийг нь уншиж үзээд санаа сэтгэлийг чинь авдаг гэсэн үг. Тэгэхээр өөрт авсан мэдээлэлээ өөртөө үлдээхгүйгээр бусдтайгаа бас шеэр хийгээрэй. За ингээ үргэлжлүүлээд ярьцлага үзье. Өглөөгөө нэг сайхан кофегоо уугаал тэгээ өнөөдөр болох зүйлийг яг болцсон юм шиг бодгол хамгийн түрүүний хийх ёстой зүйл. Өглөө босонгуудаа шууд уцаа оролдохгүйгээр хамгийн эхлээд өнөөдөр ямар сайхан өглөө вэ гэдгээ мэдрэхийн тулд хажууд байгаа зүйлсээ яг гоё болж байгаа юм шиг, яг гоё сайхан байгаа юм шигээр би төсөөлчдөг байна. Wow!
Amigo, Alter!
Okay. Wow!
I'm an EMT doctor. I go run more faster.
Yeah?
With that.
What do you feel for a difference?
Yes, it's feel the hair.
Example for which patient you would recommend this?
Snoring. So
Yeah.
I think I help in this
Yeah.
kind of problems.
Also ich empfehle das Noson grundsätzlich den Patienten, die halt einfach nachts darüber klagen, dass sie keine Luft bekommen, aber keine Lust haben, sich operieren zu lassen.
Okay.
Es gibt ja ähnliche Devices oder so, aber ich finde das Noson ist gut verarbeitet, es sitzt schön in der Nase.
Ja.
Und ich mag es, dass es von oben kommt.
Ja.
Weil es gibt
Ja.
ja auch die anderen, die von unten kommen.
Ja.
Ich finde es cool, wenn das von oben kommt. Weil es sitzt gut drin, fällt nicht raus und so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really...
Would you like use it for sports or sleeping, or how would you use it?
Yeah, I think for sport for sure, but maybe for sleeping as well. Because yeah.
Min guy, spelar så jag. Wow. Wow. What is it? Mein Gott.
Jetzt weiß ich es ja.
12. Ich kann endlich helfen mir, bro.
Hello everyone. Today's podcast have a special guest for the first time ever. We having this person from UK, straight from the UK. This is the first time ever that we gonna interview someone from UK, and we're gonna talk about OT. So if you are Mongolian, when I say OT, you straight up you're thinking about Oyutolga mining, but it's not. It's about occupational therapy. So occupational therapy, it's a topic that maybe you never heard of, but today we're gonna have more information and we're gonna dive deeply into this topic and know what the techniques are and how we can use this field in order to improve our quality of life for us and maybe our loved ones. So this special person is Samantha Shann. She's straight from UK, and I want to have her introduction by herself. It's better for you guys to listen from her first, and then we're gonna dive into today's topic. So welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be your first UK podcast. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I'm Samantha Shann. I'm an occupational therapist from the UK, and I am the president of the World Federation of Occupational Therapists.
Indeed.
So that's an international organisation made up of 111 member organisations.
Wow.
And the Mongolian Occupational Therapy Association is one of those members.
Mm-hmm. So when we hear about occupational therapy, so what's the first thing we should have into our mind?
You should think about health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So it fits predominantly into a rehabilitation profession.
Mm-hmm.
So helping people to rehabilitate after an accident or illness, or if they have a long-term disability.
Mm-hmm.
Occupational therapy helps people to do the things that they want to, are expected to do, and need to do every day.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about occupations in occupational therapy, what we're talking about are everyday activities.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when we say occupation, we just think about work.
Yes.
Well, work is one occupation.
Mm-hmm.
But say for a child, when we're talking about occupations, we're actually looking at things like play,
Yep.
going to school, getting dressed, cleaning your teeth, brushing your hair. So occupations are everything that you do every day.
Mm-hmm.
So for most of us, the things that we don't really think about because we're lucky enough to do them. But if you've had an accident or illness, you might need to think a bit more about how are you going to put your shirt on? How are you going to go to the toilet? And they're the things that occupational therapists work with you on.
Mm-hmm. So the cognitive side is included, or
Yep.
it's separately developed?
No, so an occupational therapist will cover everything.
Uh-huh.
So physical, cognitive and emotional.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a huge field then.
Huge area, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about the physiotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
That was some small part of this whole journey,
Yeah.
right? Wow. So all these years that you worked in this field, how many people you interacted to recover them from the problems?
Oh, many, many, many. So
Must be.
I work now in the UK, and in the UK we will tend to work with individuals or families or small groups of people. But I've also worked many years in Uganda, in Africa, and there the numbers of occupational therapists are much less. So the UK, the United States, Canada, those countries have had occupational therapy for around 100 years. Mm-hmm. But many other countries like Mongolia or Uganda, where I'm more familiar with, have had it for maybe sort of 10, 15 years. So you've got very few occupational therapists and a large population. So certainly the work that I would do in Uganda would be with communities and villages and helping them to look at techniques where they can incorporate children with disabilities into the village life, or how they can help prevent accidents or illnesses as well. So a lot of work for occupational therapists can be around prevention as well. So if you take an ageing population, we can do a lot of work with people as they get older to keep them safer in their homes, to stop them from falling, to help them to be able to live more independently as their body gets older and tires.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was the age that you focused the most?
I focus more on
As a professional, right?
as a professional. My experience is more with adults. Yeah.
So can you give me a case that we can understand what happens from A to Z? Like
Yeah.
a simplified one.
Okay. So I was working with a young mother who was 32 years old. And she developed quite severe rheumatoid arthritis. So very much painful joints. So she had difficulty walking. She had extreme difficulty with her hands and upper limbs. So to hold anything was really, really painful. She was 32. She had two daughters who were
Toddlers?
daughters. So 6 and 7 were her daughters. And she found doing day-to-day activities such as cooking meals for a family of 4 quite difficult. She found activities such as doing the laundry, the washing of the clothes and drying clothes, particularly difficult. And she found dressing herself difficult because the pain was worse on a morning. So we did activities of looking at different techniques for her to get dressed. So we can teach different ways where you don't have to use your fingers quite so much. You can use different parts of your body to get your clothes on easier. We looked at adapting clothing to use more zips rather than buttons and things like that. With the cooking and the laundry activities, we looked at assistive technology. So products that can help make that easier. So, for example, you can get things that are called a kettle tipper that help to take some of the weight from lifting a heavy kettle and introducing things like that. And again, to do the laundry and the washing of the clothes, we looked at how we could bring assistive technology into that. One of the things that caused her the most upset was not being able to do her daughter's hair on a morning. The daughters wanted their hair brushing and putting into ponytails or plaits or whatever, as 6 and 7 year old girls like to do. And she found that particularly painful. So we worked with her on different activities to build up her fine finger movement and looking at how we could introduce different hairstyles that her daughters still felt special, but she could manage to do. Things like increasing the diameter of hairbrushes, so putting on extra material so that the grip of the hairbrush was different, so she could manage that. And helping her to look at when she did activities, so she didn't do everything in one day.
Of course.
And
it's a process, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So specifically in this case, how long you showed effort to see the result?
We saw sort of like if you introduce assistive technology, that generally then the outcomes are instantaneous. You will get, quick changes. If you're building up muscle strength in different muscles or introducing new techniques to do something, sometimes that can be a couple of days, a couple of weeks. To make bigger changes, you might need a few months.
Speaking of technologies, what kind of technologies are we talking about? Very innovative.
Yeah, so
ones that we don't have over here, maybe.
Possibly, and probably ones that I don't know anything about as well. I think if you were talking to colleagues from Hong Kong or Japan, there are some wonderful splints. There are some wonderful upper limb orthotics. Artificial arms that are doing fantastic things. But I think the ones that I certainly use more day to day in my practice are ones that we all use. So our smartphones. There's an awful lot of technology in our smartphones that can actually help to keep us safer. So at the moment, I'm working with a lady that has post-traumatic stress disorder from a series of bereavements, and she's having difficulty to concentrate. So what we're trying to do is limit that she does tasks for a 10-minute period, and then after concentrating for 10 minutes, she gets up and goes for a walk or does a stretch or changes the activity. But she forgets to do that. So simple things like putting timers into her mobile phone. So when the alarm goes off on her phone, she knows she needs to get up from her workstation and go for a walk. There are sensors within your phones or smart things now about fall detection. And we're using a lot of that around fall detection with sort of older people. One of my colleagues who works more with children is using a lot of different apps now to do different cognitive activities with children. Traditionally, we might work with children on things like handwriting and fine motor techniques. Now, where a good occupational therapist comes in is the occupational therapist won't use the activity that you're struggling with as the intervention. Because if you're struggling with something and you keep trying to do it and fail, then your motivation becomes low. And if you remember being a child at school, if somebody told you you can't do something, you take that on board and you suddenly can't do it. Yeah. So a good occupational therapist will use other activities to develop the same skill. So if you ask a child to keep writing their name and they're struggling to hold a pen, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah.
But if you use games or activities that the child likes to do and you do those activities, you will build up the muscles that the child needs for handwriting, but they'll be practicing it on something that they like. So often you will see occupational therapists doing nice activities and having fun with their patients and clients. So if they're working with children, you will see them doing a lot of play activities, playing games, having fun. But what they're doing is building up fine motor skills, or often for children where they struggle the most with is not actually the fine motor, it's building up the strength in their trunk and their stomach muscles and back muscles. Because if you don't have that strong core stability, your arms
Everything
don't do anything.
discoordinated,
Yes. So it's though, you might see them having fun on swings and slides, but it's not, the fun bit is to motivate the child, but the actual therapy is how the child is using their muscles or how the child is integrating cognitively what's happening with their environment. Yeah.
Hey, подкастын таалагдж байна уу? Үргэлжлүүлээд бүр илүү ихийг сонсохыг хүсэж байгаа бол биднийг дэмжээрэй. Бид Хандивын даастаа болсон байна. Тайлбар хэсэгт нь оруулсан байгаа. Эсвэл энийг хардаа. Баярлаа.
Is there any success story related to someone who went through occupational therapy sessions and become a professional athlete in any field of sports? It could be, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's Tanni Gray-Thompson, who is a para-Olympian from the UK, and she's, I think, at the time, somebody's maybe overtaken her record now, but at the time she won the most medals for a para-Olympian. And she's been in a wheelchair for many years, and she has interacted with occupational therapists at lots of levels from being a small child.
Must be.
Yeah.
So the second part that I want to touch is the mental health side. So very broad topic, occupational therapy, but the therapist, occupational therapist, every occupational therapist is dedicated to cover the cognitive and physical and mental side, or there's a specific occupational therapist that does only mental side and physical side like that?
No, we do everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So our
You guys
education.
are superheroes.
We are. Yeah. Magicians.
Magicians, yeah.
Absolute
Exactly.
magicians. Yeah. We cover everything in our basic education. Because mental health is, yes, you can have mental health disorders. So, there are people with schizophrenia or bipolar disorders where we need specific mental health treatments. But actually, everybody has mental health. And all of us feel anxious at some point.
Yep.
All of us have days where we might not be clinically depressed, but where our motivation is affected because our mood is lower. So, yes, all occupational therapists will learn about that mental health and mental well-being side of it as well. Because certainly, if you're working with children, you never just work with the child. You've got parents, you've got brothers, you've got siblings, and that illness,
That person's community.
yeah, and how do they fit into that? How do they feel anxious or belonging into that? So the mental health is really, really important, and often it's our cognitive sides and our confidence that stops us from doing things.
Би өглөөгөө нэг сайхан кофегоо уугаал. Тэгээ өнөөдөр болох зүйлийг яг болцсон юм шиг бодгол хамгийн түрүүний хийх ёстой зүйл. Өглөө босонгуудаа шууд уцаа оролдохгүйгээр хамгийн эхлээд өнөөдөр ямар сайхан өглөө гэдгээ мэдрэхийн тулд хажууд байгаа зүйлсээ яг гоё болж байгаа юм шиг, яг гоё сайхан байгаа юм шигээр би төсөөлчдөг байна.
Amigo, Alter!
Okay. Wow.
I'm an EMT doctor. I go run more faster
Yeah.
with that.
What do you feel for a difference?
Yes, it's feel the hair
Example for which patient you would recommend this?
snoring. So
Yeah.
I think I help in this
Yeah.
kind of problems.
Also ich empfehle das nur so grundsätzlich den Patienten, die halt einfach nachts darüber klagen, dass sie keine Luft bekommen, aber keine Lust haben, sich operieren zu lassen.
Okay.
Gibt ja ähnliche Devices oder so, aber ich finde das Noson ist gut verarbeitet, es sitzt schön in der Nase.
Ja.
Und ich mag es, dass es von oben kommt.
Ja.
Weil es gibt
Ja.
ja auch die anderen, die von unten kommen.
Ja.
Ich finde es cool, wenn das von oben kommt. Es sitzt gut drin, fällt nicht raus und so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really.
Would you use it for sports or sleeping, or how would you use it?
Yeah, I think for sport for sure, but maybe for sleeping as well. Because yeah.
Min guy, speel zo je. Wow. Wow. That's it. Mein Gott.
Jetzt weißt du es ja.
12. Ich kann endlich halten, my bro.
Every time I talk into a therapist from any field, right, I do worry about themselves. Because when those people who focuses on someone's mental health, that person always be or left affected too, because of this relationship is not normal.
Yeah.
Always have to give more than you can give, and that's how you can get the results. But that you being so empathic about that person, it makes you feel not normal. I would say not normal, or it's like it's depressing too. So how you guys handle your side of mental health?
Okay, that's a good question. I think to be a good occupational therapist, to start with, is you have to have a real genuine interest in people and a real genuine interest in their stories. Like, who is the person that you're working with? What's important and where do they belong? And I think if you have that interest in the people that you're working with, it changes how you take on board the things that you see and do, because there's a general therapeutic relationship within that. But as with any other health profession, is supervision and mentorship are absolutely essential. So that professional supervision, where you can check out with a more senior member of staff of like, these are the things that we're doing, any other recommendations, what else should we be doing? And that again is why it's important that the Mongolian occupational therapists are part of this international family of therapists. So while occupational therapy is a young profession in Mongolia, they're part of this, but they're part of this international family, and they get support from international colleagues as well, which helps them with their mental health issues, but also enables them to give the best therapy to their clients as well. Yeah.
I think you know better about Mongolia than me, specifically in OT side. So how many professionals do we have over here?
I think with graduation this year, and I'm probably going to get it wrong, but I'm going to say I think you've got 52 now. Yeah.
So in stock, how many we do have? About 100.
Yeah, I think, and then there's students there. There's maybe about another 40 or 50 that are in the education program. Yeah.
So
the difficulty is with occupational therapy internationally, not just in Mongolia, is it's a predominantly female profession. We would like to see more males come into the profession.
Let me go into that.
Any men out there, if you're interested in occupational therapy. And then, as we know, some of the challenges with having a female-dominated profession is it's the females that will have career breaks for families. So whilst we educate people, then they may take, however many years out to have families as well. So there's...
Now that you mentioned about the challenges that faces, human resource side is that too much female, and the male side is not interesting this topic. So that, and this developing country, such as Uganda and Mongolia, what kind of challenges we will face in order to develop this sector?
I think it's general awareness. So people don't necessarily know what occupational therapy is. So if you've got your son or daughter that is going to go to university, you're not going to suggest to them occupational therapy if you don't know about it. Equally, if you're 18, 19, you're not necessarily going to choose occupational therapy because you don't know about it. So we have to do a lot of awareness raising around that this is an essential profession that is really needed here in Mongolia. There are jobs. So all of the graduates out of the university so far have found jobs, and they found jobs before they've actually graduated. So, it is a strong profession. There is a real focus on rehabilitation at the moment from the World Health Organization, so internationally, and from government. So yesterday we met with your government here around developments that they have planned for rehabilitation. So
how did you felt about it?
Very, very positive that they
thank God.
Is it the Health in Mongolian plan that they have, and how they're going to introduce and look at health and well-being in society. So, there are good career opportunities within health, but I think within occupational therapy, it's a really exciting time to get involved in the profession, because if you are a creative person, if you like to work hard, like working in teams, it is an absolute perfect profession, because every person that you meet will be different. You can really use your problem solving skills. There are no correct ways to do certain activities. So we problem solve all of the time with our clients. And I think now is the time to get involved in occupational therapy, because you could be a pioneer of the profession here in Mongolia.
Let's hope this small content gives awareness for the general public and increases the people who studies about this field.
Yeah.
Let's hope for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how about pros and cons of this field for a person who's trying to choose or not choose, like wanted to decide? So
Okay. We'll start with the cons.
yeah.
So the cons are always that, people don't know what it is, so it can feel like a risk.
Yes.
Yeah. But I generally sort of say that's also a pro, because if you speak to nurses or physiotherapists, the general population often think that they know what nurses or physios do, but don't generally know the full scope of it. Whereas with occupational therapy, people will say, I don't know what that is. So we have a chance to really educate people.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I think that for me, I love occupational therapy. So I can't think of any real cons, because we can work anywhere. We can work in schools, we can work in hospitals, we can work in communities, we can work in people's homes, because what we're doing is enable them to live day to day.
How you see the future of occupational therapy? What will happen near future? Maybe in 5 to 10 years? Because I believe that the influence of innovations at the tech side, right? It will give you more tools, maybe shortcuts to improve their health and achieve your goals.
I think it will. I think AI, artificial intelligence, will change the way that healthcare in general is delivered. I think, we've seen masses of advancements in healthcare, like even in the 30 years I've been practicing. If you took somebody with a total hip replacement 30 years ago, they spent maybe 5 days in hospital. Wow. Now in the UK,
a day.
Yeah. and all that preventative and post-op techniques have totally changed because of what we know and of assistive technology. So I think, what we're going to see in the next 5 or 10 years with AI and assistive technology is going to change that. However, the strength of occupational therapy lies in person to person. And whilst technology...
Human-to-human relationship.
And technology is fantastic.
Yep.
And it's going to change, it does change the way that we live. I think we all saw during COVID is actually the importance of human contact. Mm-hmm. And for me, the real strength and one of the advantages of being an occupational therapist is working face-to-face with people, making positive changes on things that they want to change in their life. And I think as a healthcare profession, having that personal contact is a real privilege, but the most important thing in helping people to maintain their mental health and their well-being.
Mm-hmm. I didn't ask you on record, what was the reason that you choose this field? And before you choosing this field to study or be a professional, the expectation exceeded, or there was something else happened?
Okay, yeah. Mm. So I was a Girl Scout leader in my late teens, and we had a young brownie, a young 7-year-old who had Down syndrome, learning difficulties. Mm-hmm. And an occupational therapist came to help us as leaders to show us how to teach this little girl activities differently, how to include her in the activities that we did week to week in the pack. And I was really impressed by how making a few small changes that this little girl had a full participation in whatever we did week to week. And I also saw how that changed the other girls and children in the pack of being around people with disabilities. So I had thought about physiotherapy, but when I saw actually the potential of occupational therapy, that's what I explored. And it has led me on a journey that I never thought I would go on. Never did I think I would end up in Mongolia talking about occupational therapy. And it's helped me to meet some wonderful people. I think every patient that I meet, having that opportunity to make a difference with them in their lives is really important. So one of my clients, he called occupational therapy, OT, his own time in his recovery from his illness to think about the person that he wanted to be.
Let me take advantage of me being host and having interview with the person from UK. So how's things going on over there? Where do you live exactly?
I live in the northeast of England in a city called Newcastle upon Tyne. So it's the city that's closest to the Scottish border. And about an hour's north is Alnwick Castle. And Alnwick Castle's still lived in by the Duke and Duchess of Northumberland. But people might know it because it's where some of the Harry Potter scenes were filmed.
Oh,
So it's a very beautiful part
like
of the world.
like a movie. And of course the Game of Thrones. It's just now when I hear those words, like I see the castles and then the Night's Watch.
Yes. There's lots of castles. Yeah. One of my favourite walks is along the beach up in Northumberland, and you can walk in one direction and see one castle and then turn round and walk back the other way and there's a different castle. There are castles all over the place.
So UK, they budget to this field, occupational therapist. How many? I mean, I want to know the budget. Is it sufficient to reach out to public? Because I do believe we don't have that much budget for those people who needs this occupational therapy, and especially we don't have this adequate environment for them to have or to live among us.
Yeah. The UK is probably a little bit different to other places around the world because in the UK we are very lucky to have the National Health Service, which is free for all and covers all of our healthcare. However, it doesn't fund everything, and there are lots and lots of strains on health budgets within the UK and internationally. I think what we're seeing in the UK is a shift, so people will get occupational therapy as part of the National Health Service and also through Ministry of Education. So some occupational therapists in the UK are employed by the Department of Education and work in schools. So they work with children in school environments. But we're also seeing in the last 5 to 10 years is an increase of occupational therapists in the UK working in private practice. So I have my own private practice now, and I will take direct referrals from clients themselves. So they may have had occupational therapy in the hospital, they will be discharged home and realise that they could gain more function back if they had more therapy, and they will then pay for that privately or through insurance.
Би өглөөгөө нэг сайхан кофегоо уугаал тэгээ өнөөдөр болох зүйлийг яг болцсон юм шиг бодгол хамгийн түрүүний хийх ёстой зүйл. Өглөө босонгуудаа шууд уцаа оролдохгүйгээр хамгийн эхлээд өнөөдөр ямар сайхан өглөө гэдгээ мэдрэхийн тулд хажууд байгаа зүйлсээ яг гоё болж байгаа юм шиг, яг гоё сайхан байгаа юм шигээр би төсөөлчдөг байна.
Wow! Amigo, Alter!
Okay.
Wow.
And the ENT doctor. I go run more faster
Yeah?
with that.
What do you feel for a difference?
Yes, it's feel the hair
Example for which patient you would recommend this?
snoring. Too,
Yeah.
I think I help in this
Yeah.
kind of problems.
Also ich empfehle das nur so grundsätzlich den Patienten, die halt einfach nachts darüber klagen, dass sie keine Luft bekommen, aber keine Lust haben, sich operieren zu lassen.
Okay.
Gibt ja ähnliche Devices oder so, aber ich finde das Noson ist gut verarbeitet, es sitzt schön in der Nase
Ja.
und ich mag es, dass es von oben kommt.
Ja.
Weil es gibt
Ja.
ja auch die anderen, die von unten kommen.
Ja.
Ich finde es cool, wenn das von oben kommt. Weil es sitzt gut drin, fällt nicht raus und so.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really.
Would you like use it for sports or sleeping, or how would you use it?
Yeah, I think for sport for sure, but maybe for sleeping as well. Because yeah.
Minkä spyr shoja. Wow. Wow. Mein Gott. Jetzt weiß ich es. 12. Ich kann endlich helfen, my bro.
So about the income that every occupational therapist receive in UK, is it the average salary could be greater than any other field, or it's equal?
It's equal to nurses, physiotherapists, speech and language therapists, yeah.
On the other hand, Mongolia needs to incentivize those people who study this field for maybe a few years more in order to increase the amount of people who are interested in this field.
Yeah. And
Do you
then
believe?
I think so. And I mean, it's there within the health system, but I think that insurance reimbursement way of working needs to be probably reviewed, not just for occupational therapy, but for other rehab professions, to make it more individualised. The thing about rehabilitation is it should be situated to meet the individual. We all have different needs. So what we would call a blanket referral, where everybody admitted to a ward in a hospital sees a physio and an OT, that's not necessarily going to be the most efficient way rehabilitation-wise, because some people might not need some services, whereas some people might need more than the 20 minutes that they're given. So allowing rehabilitation professionals, including occupational therapists, to do their own assessments is in the long run a better way of using an insurance scheme way.
All right.
But I think the other thing, we were talking about advantages of occupational therapy, the advantages of setting up private clinics, of doing private practice and being able to manage, I think a lot of people like that way of managing their own time and working. That there are lots of opportunities within occupational therapy to do that as well.
How many years you studied?
4 years in Mongolia.
4 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we focusing on giving general knowledge for general public. So about the awareness side, and I want you to give some useful tips for those who lives with people in need for occupational therapy, and maybe small tricks to improve their quality.
I think things that are important when we're working with people that have anxiety or sort of depression is working with activities that can be done in short spaces of time, or breaking activities down into short periods. We shouldn't be doing the same thing repeatedly for a long time. Tips that we can do around the house is sometimes when it's like physical mobility, it's around sort of like changing the environment as well. So, if we take an ageing population or somebody that has limited physical mobility, changing things from like bathtubs to showers can sometimes be a little bit easier. Looking at the heights of seats, there's lots of different adaptations around cutlery and the knives, forks, spoons that we use, and how they can be adapted to be easier to use. The one that I talk to a lot to my older clients in the UK about is stair lifts.
Stair lifts.
Yeah. And a lot of falls happen on staircases. And the classic one from family doctors in the UK is, oh, you should walk up and down steps as long as you can because it's good exercise. I always say,
But
yes, it's exercise, but it's not much fun. I never get to the top of the stairs and think, yes.
of course.
So if I had limited energy, I always say to my clients is get a stair lift, and that's going to keep you safe up and down the stairs. It also then saves your energy to do something that you really like maybe playing a game with your grandchild or going to the cafe and having a coffee with your friends. Occupational therapy should enable you to do the things that give you the most meaning in your life.
And fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much about giving us this information, and thank God you visited to Mongolia and assist in this field and these professional people. And we do have so many holes that we need to fill to develop this country as a one country. I mean, so I think in near future we'll be better amount-wise, the professionals who interested in this field, and also all the informations that we bringing from the outer world into Mongolia lately. It's the amount is huge, and I hope the effect comes right away.
Yeah, and you've got some fantastic, out of the 52 that you've got at the moment, there are some fantastic occupational therapists in Mongolia. They're doing some great work. I've been very impressed with what I've seen, and the quality of occupational therapy is really good
to hear
here.
that. Okay, and wish you luck and happiness for your rest of your life. Maybe someday we'll meet up again and talk about something else, maybe, or this same topic.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Thank you for your time today as well.
And enjoy your stay.
I will do.
Okay, guys, I hope you guys found interesting this topic, and then please talk about this topic between your friends and family and loved ones, and spread this kind of knowledge and information. And hope you have fun day, and see you next time.
За та бидний хэрхэн дэмжихээ мэдэхгүй байгаа бол энэ хандивын данс руу мөнгө илгээхэд хангалттай. Гэхдээ их мөнгө биш. Та заавал аимшигтэй их мөнгө илгээх шаардлагагүй. Магадгүй 1000 төгрөг, 2000 төгрөг, 20000 төгрөг байсан ч болно. Гол нь бид та бүхний энэ үйлдэлээс маш их урам авдаг учраас цаашдаа хүргэж байгаа подкастынхаа чанарыг магадгүй олон улсын эрдэмтдтэй гадаадд очиж ярилцлага хийх гих зэрэг зүйлс бид нар зарцуулахыг хичээж байгаа. Тэгэхээр олон жил бид нар хийсэн энэ подкастаа зогсоомооргүй байна, үргэлжлүүлмээр байна. Мөн амьдралын чанарыг дээшлүүлэхэд бид нар оролцоотой байхыг хүсэж байгаа юм шүү. Баярлалаа. Данс доор байгаа шүү. Баяртай.